page, like in our browser, we have the JavaScript interpreter. With the help of that interpreter, okay, this particular browser understand what has been written in a JavaScript. And the window object represents the window displaying a document. So earlier in our previous class, we have discussed about the window, and in the window we have the document object embedded inside it. So in the document we will have either a HTML or a PHP or anything else. So window is nothing but your container where you have your document object inside it. So all the properties are visible to all the scripts. So global variables are the properties of the window object, and there can be more than one window object. So for, we can have multiple window objects. Okay. Global variable depends on which window is the context. We have seen the global and the local variables, right? So these global variables can be accessed by any pages. Like its scope is it's not like descoped like a local variable. Like it works in a particular function, but you can access that particular variable throughout the page where you are actually accessing it. And the document object represents the document displayed. Whatever your document will have is like it can be all HTML elements, like it can be forms, links, or anchors. So window will have again certain properties like window.width, window.height, and all. So the frame property of window. So it again we will have different properties and methods in this windows. This internal DOM model, and those are nothing but the layout engines. Levels. So here we have 4 levels. Like DOM 0 is an informal which the early browsers used to follow. This DOM level 1 specification is separated again into 2 parts, like core and the HTML. And this core level 1 provides a low level set of fundamental interfaces that can represent any structured document, as well as defining some extended interfaces and all. So this was used by like mostly early browsers, like it can be IE 6 or 5, the most early versions. And this DOM level 1 XHTML or XML structure. So this DOM level 2 specification, it again consists of again like 6 different specifications we have, like core, views, events, style, traversal, and range, and DOM to HTML. So these are almost supported in Mozilla. So this browser supports DOM level 2, and we have this certain things like document get element by ID. So using this particular get element by ID, we can get the ID of a particular HTML tag. So these are all involved here. So DOM 2 core, it extends the functionality of a DOM 1 core, and it also contains specialized interfaces. Events which are a part of DOM 2 level, they actually allow the programs and the scripts to dynamically access. Like for example, if I want to add a color dynamically, like I don't want to give it in a CSS or a HTML, I want to update the content, and then I'll create an element in my JavaScript under the script tag, or like if it is a script tag, it comes under JavaScript, whether it is in HTML or not. So I have created, yesterday we have seen some examples, right? How we have actually created a dynamic ULLI, like appending using plus symbol. Okay, like that we can actually create a dynamic content and change the styles also using certain methods in a JavaScript. So that we'll again see like how we can do it dynamically. So we have certain events also, mouse events we have, like mouse click, mouse up, mouse down, and event target, event listeners. So these certain methods, famous methods, which include add event listener. We want to add some events in JavaScript, we will use add event listener and handle events. And we have bubbling, like event bubbling, event capturing, which we will see in depth. So how the events are coming, for example, you have some elements from parent to a child. So which event will be triggered first, from the child to parent or from parent to child? So these are all comes under DOM2 events. And we have DOM2 CSS and style specifications also, which is almost supported in Mozilla. Traversal and range concept. It allows the programs and scripts to dynamically transverse, like we can identify a node kind of things. Insertion, add insertion, modification and deletion of a range of content, we can do it. And when we go to the DOM3, we have a content model and validations here. So this validation actually allows the programs and scripts to dynamically update the content and structure of the documents while ensuring that the document remains valid. So we'll do certain validations using our JavaScript to ensure that the document becomes valid. And this events, it's an again extension of the DOM2 events. So this specification mainly focus on keyboard events and how to handle them. DOM specification describes an abstract model of a document. So it's nothing but an internal model of the whatever HTML page that is loaded. And this interfaces describe the methods and properties. We have certain methods in DOM like document.get element by ID or create element, and properties like you can access the styles of the particular element which we have retrieved using the DOM. Okay. Again, if this interface describes a tree structure, as we discussed, it's again a tree structure. The different languages will bind the interfaces to specific implementations. An internal representation may not be like a tree like. So whatever we see, like it is always not required that we follow from parent to child. The traversals can be any way. So in JavaScript, data are represented as a properties and operations as methods. So data, we represent it as a property, and whatever operations we are doing, we call it as a methods. We just ignore this. So we have different, we have the node concepts in JavaScript. Like for example, you want to access any element, child element. In that case, like properties, like I'll show you an example. We just call a HTML element as a node here. Okay. It's like an interface that is like implemented by multiple other objects, including the document and all. As a child element. So these are the child elements, 2p tags. So in our script, we are actually trying to create a p tag dynamically using JavaScript by document is an object dot create element is a method, and we are creating this p element. Okay, so this particular where p has the p element. So after that, you are trying to create a text node. This is new. Okay, So this text node, whatever the text you are creating dynamically using JavaScript, you are appending the text node to this tag, p tag, which is created dynamically here. So append child, again it is a method which helps to append your child element node, which is your text. Like here this is paragraph, right? This is your text node. So here this is your text node. You are trying to append it to a tag. Now what have you done? Now that you have created a tag and a text inside the tag, now you want to append it to your div element, right? So what you will do, document or get element by id of div1. You will try to get this id, and for this id you will append the child para, okay, which has the total p plus text node. So the output will be like, there will be one more p tag appended here below with this is new. That will be the output. I'll show you. I'll run here. So there are certain methods in JavaScript that you have to just go through, practice, and you can well remember those concepts. JavaScript, and certain methods like append child, create text node, okay, document or create element, and all. But your HTML elements like input type is equal to text, name is equal to address, you can see, right? The object representing this node, nothing but an input element node, which has two properties. So this node has two properties. In JavaScript we call these HTML elements as an nodes, and this type property, value is text, and name property. So you have two properties for this node. So these are the properties of that particular element. And accessing the elements in JavaScript. So, well, we have seen the examples like in our previous sessions. So, elements in XHTML documents corresponding to objects in JavaScript. Objects can be addressed in several ways. Like we have seen, like different DOM levels, DOM 0, DOM 1. So, in DOM 0, it's an initial early browsers used to use them, and we have forms and elements arrays defined in our DOM 0. The individual elements are specified by index, and the index may change when the form changes. So each individual elements are specified by the index. So like index basically it starts from 0, 1, 2, 3. So when this index changes, the index may change when the form changes. So when your form actually it changes, or due to the addition of new elements or deletion of the elements. So due to the change index, the form elements, the form will have certain changes. So using the name attributes of the form and form elements, a name on the form element causes a validation problems, and names are required on the form elements providing data to server. So we have certain attributes called names in our forms. Let me show an example here. Syntax. In this you can observe like input type is equal to text and name is equal to full name. So this name attribute will help in providing data to the server, like what kind of tag it is or what kind of node it is. So this actually helps during the validations. Okay. Sometimes if not handled properly, appropriately, it will cause some errors. Okay. And using this get element by id with id attributes, so id attribute value must be unique for an element. So this we have already seen, discussed. Kind of indexes it is referencing. Using name attributes, all the elements from the reference element up to but not including the body must have a name attribute. So here in this case this particular form is there, right? It should have the name attribute. That is what it is telling. Like it's like XHTML standards that we have to follow, having the name attribute for the respective forms. You have a form name, which form dot push me. Earlier, if you define it like forms of 0 dot elements of 0, what happens in your page if you have multiple forms? Sometimes your form, what we say, we can change the place of our form, right? We can initially we'll write form 0, form 1, form 2. Like you have 10 forms in your page, and if you shift the form 1 to form 2 place or something, the index changes, and there is a risk of uh, going errors. Like we can make some errors if you use these indexes. You have to be like very clear of giving a form name here, so that even if you change the place or structure, the actually the server can understand like where what kind of form actually we are trying to access. Have an ID attribute of an input element for dynamic things. You want to get some ID and you want to have some actions done on this kind of element. Okay, this is what here. Now coming to the event driven programming, events and event handling. So events we have seen in some of our examples. Events is nothing but an action that has to be performed, like on click, on focus, on blur. So the event driven programming is a style of programming in which pieces of code, event handlers, are written to be activated when certain event occurs. So some actions which has to be performed on click of something, on trigger, you have to just trigger those events. Okay. Events represent activity in the environment, including especially user actions such as moving the mouse or typing on the keyboard. So even if you move the mouse also, it is an event. You are like typing on your keyboard, key up and key down as are treated as events as well. Okay. An event handler is a program segment designed to execute when an event occurs. Okay. And these events are represented by the JavaScript objects. So registration is the activity of connecting a script to a type of event. So registration is nothing but you are like trying to connect your event handler, like kind of on click to your HTML page. You are connecting your JavaScript event with your HTML page, like you have to assign here. Assign an event attribute, event handler, and assign a DOM node and event handler. DOM node is nothing but your HTML element, which is considered as a node in your document object model, internal model. And you have to assign some like you have to assign these events on your nodes, right? You are assigning on click on your particular, like on click you are trying to append the child, or you are trying to create a text node. So on the nodes you are having all these methods or event handlers. So here we can see the different types of events, like blur. For blur event, we will write on blur in our HTML page, on change, on click, on focus. So these are the event names, and these are the tag attributes that we have to actually use in our HTML page. Okay. Okay. On blur, I'm like on click, I'm writing equal to some function name of. So when I click on it, this particular function will be called. To certain attributes, like you are seeing here, right? Events are associated to this attributes, and the attribute of one kind of event may appear on different tags, allowing the program to react to events affecting different components. So it is telling like in your page you can have the same events, or like on click you can have 2-3 on clicks, and it has to react to the events affecting different components. Like you can have multiple clicks on your page, like multiple, like you can have only single submit for a form, but you can have other simple button clicks on which multiple functions has to be triggered here. So text gets the focus in 3 ways. So this is talking about text focus. Like you have an input box, right? In the input box your cursor will be blinking, right? So that is nothing but the focus. Okay. When the user puts the mouse cursor over it and presses the left button, and when the user tabs to the element by executing the focus method. So on the focus method, like we have seen in our examples, right? When we click on the particular input text box, the cursor blinks, which is like it is the like focus is on our text box text element. Losing the focus is blur. So when you actually move your cursor out of the text box, like if you press anywhere on the body of your page except inside the text box, that is called blur event. Losing focus. And setting a handler. Using an attribute, a JavaScript command can be specified. So now you are handling, setting an handler, event handler, on click. On click, you should get some alert. So here if you want a script that has to run HTML document is loaded, right? In that case, if you want some script to be run on the first page load, then you can use this window.load is equal to function. So using this, whatever the code you written here, right, JavaScript dynamic code, that will be executed immediately on the page load. Okay. So events, handling events from the button elements. So an event can be registered for this tag in two ways. For example, you have something called input type is equal to button. You have some name and ID. So using attribute, how you will do it actually? You will use some on click and all. So without using the on click right there itself, we can have some other notation as well. You can try getting the element of this free button ID, and you can write on click equal to free button handler. Okay, so this on click you are calling this particular function. So there are two types in which you can do this. Either you can directly write in your HTML tag, or in your JavaScript portion you can call this. Using the same HTML tag, you can have the like using the event attribute, you can have it done here. And another way is using a document.get element by ID in your JavaScript, you can have it done here that I'm going to show you. It illustrates like a script that displays an alert when the radio button is clicked. So whenever we click a radio button, we are just trying to show some alert here. So let us see here. Clicking on this model 172, I got a alert here. Okay. So this is the switch case we have used here. Okay. have assigned this on click here. So when I click on this particular plain choice of 152, what happens here? It will go to the particular function place join of 152 I have given. So in this switch case, it will match my case and throw an alert like this. Okay. Okay, I'm not giving any on click in my HTML. Rather, I'm going to my JS page and trying to access using document dot get element by ID. Okay, I'm getting my form name and I'm just iterating through the different elements, buttons. Okay, I'm checking whether this particular button is checked, and based upon it I'm throwing an alert. So I'm just writing a logic in my JavaScript for my button press. I'm just iterating through different radio buttons, and whichever is checked I'm checking. Like this is an attribute called dot checked. For validations, like if it is already checked, we will use dom dot. Dom is nothing but your my form ID. Okay, that is your form. Inside the form you have plain button of index. Okay, whatever index you have given, it's a zero element or a first input element or second first radio button or second radio button. Like based on it will check and it will throw a value. So based on this plain thing, you will get the alert. So these are the two different methods we have. The handler call can be enclosed in an anonymous function like the function which do not have a name. We can call it as an anonymous function. The function itself has the functionality within itself and we do not have any name specified like this below. Okay. So on click of that particular dom dot elements of 0. So 0 is your nothing but your first element, plain choice of 152. That can be shown here as an example. You can have the assignments like this. Okay, this is plain choice of 0 on click. Compare the different registration methods. So assigning to an attribute is more flexible, allowing passing parameters without having to create an anonymous function. So like without creating the anonymous function, like assigning an attribute like on click is equal to function name. Is like more flexible when compared to the anonymous function, and assigning to a node property helps separate the HTML and the code. So in your HTML, like input on click is equal to some function you are giving, right? So that itself you are like combining HTML and JavaScript function there itself. So if you want to separate your HTML portion with your JavaScript part, you want to do some modularization kind of thing, then this node property will help you out. And assigning to a node property allows reassignment later if the handler needs to be changed. So if you want to change your handler or something, it is not required to change the portion of the code both in your HTML or JavaScript and JavaScript pages. Rather, you can have one page without like you cannot like you can just leave the HTML page without doing any modifications, and you can change the events in your JavaScript files. So it's like recommended to have this node kind of registration like you have done in your JavaScript. So even handling from text box and the password elements, by manipulating the focus events, the user can be prevented from changing the amount in a text input field. So I'll just show you an example how the blurring a field whenever it gains focus, like this example illustrates it. Table. So inside the table you have three, four, like around 4 columns. I will show you the. This is your focus. Okay. Whenever your cursor is blinking on a particular textbook, it is said like it is in focus. Whenever you tab it, like you are blur. This particular input is now like blur, and this is your focus. So every time you are giving some value and you are like blurring the previous thing. Okay. So total cost will be the multiplication of this 3.49 into 2. Okay, when I click on it, you will have the total value here. Here, this is my compute cost function. Okay, with the help of this IDs, I am trying to get the values which I am entering in the quantity column here, and I've stored it in French, hazelnut, and Colombian, these values. Now I'm just performing some multiplications on the total cost, like French into 3.49. First one, quantity into this plus hazelnut, this price into quantity, and I'm just adding and getting some total cost here. The third TD is my input type. Okay. For this, we are trying to get this French ID in this source, in this particular source file, that is a JavaScript file. Okay. Dot value. Okay. Value is nothing but whatever you are trying to. Value is an attribute of input tag. So whatever you are entering here will be the value. Okay. The front end side, and something like a username password authentications has to be done from a server side. If all simple validations, like if you do not enter any characters in your username, then it should throw an alert like please enter your username or please enter your password. So those should not be handled from the server side. It is not recommended because it again become a turnaround, like you have to hit a request, you have to make a request to a server, it has to get, and it's a, like a time taking process, and also it's not recommended. So in order to avoid all those things, we will be handling server side like JavaScript from the front end itself. So validating the data using JavaScript provides quicker interaction for the user, so we can get immediate response, fast response. Validate checking on the server requires a round trip for the server to check the data and then to respond with an appropriate error page. And handling a data validity error, put the focus in the field in the question, highlight the text for user rating. For example, if you want to tell that please fill the username, you can either give some text or you can highlight that input box using some border color like a red color, so that itself tells like this is a mandatory field. Okay. Okay, here we are trying to have some password input. We have a form and we have some password and verify password. So here so I have a function called check passwords here, and this is my HTML. And what happens here, I got my two IDs like password and the username, and I want to check if my password is dot value, like that particular input ID is placed here in this variable dot value equal to empty. I want to throw an alert like the entered, like it's not a, like you did not enter a password or some kind of text you want to display, and then init.focus means you will have your cursor pointed in that particular input box. So you it is like you have to enter the particular username for sure, like password for sure, and then you'll just come out of this function. And one more validation is like whatever you enter in your first field, it should not be same as your second field. In that case, we are again trying to do something like the two passwords you entered are not the same. As this is a confirmation password, it's not username actually. Password and your confirmation password. So like verify password, same passwords has to be verified. Two has to be same. In that case, you have to. It is mandatory to have both are equal. If not equal, then it will throw an error. Write the code appropriately. So based on this, what happens when you are actually trying to give the same passwords or like a different passwords, you will get an error accordingly. And if you give the same, it will take that without throwing any error. So this is like a register the event handlers for this HTML. Like for on blur, we are just having the we have just registering the events for this two things. Either you can have directly like this. Like two ways of registering we have seen, right? You can either give like this or you can include a script which is a registering event handlers in a separate thing. Okay. Here we have a first name, last name, and a middle name. So we have written some validations here. Okay, it should be a combination of capital letters as well as small letters. Okay, and phone number should be like three digits, and then four digits. So if these two patterns are matched, then only we can allow the user to submit a form. Assigning some pattern matchings, and it has to follow this particular format, and also this particular format for the name. For this, we have written the pattern matchings. This is for first text box. Okay, and this is for your phone number. Pattern matchings, it will throw an alert accordingly. If I don't give a correct phone number, it will throw an alert like this. Okay, it's not the correct format. Please go back and fix your phone number. If you give it appropriately, it will take, like, you have to follow this particular pattern. So in this way you can write the validations using your regular expressions. So DOM2 is different. So we have certain events in our DOM2 model. So an event object is passed as a parameter to an event handler. For example, here you can see some event types will extend the interface to include the information relevant to its subtype. For example, a mouse event will include the location of the mouse at the time of the event. Here, in this event model, the properties of the object will provide the information about the event. So you have a mouse events here. Let me show you some mouse events. Using attributes, how you will do on load, on click, on blur, on focus, like that. Using events like load or click or focus, you have to write this add event listener to attach an event handler to your function. So window.onload we have seen, right? So window.load is nothing but when your page script loads, when your HTML loads. Okay. So you have some function. Inside the function you are trying to get, you have two buttons. Okay, you have two buttons in your HTML page, and you have to you are just trying to get the output like which button we have clicked, either button 1 or button 2. In this case, this is the logic. We are trying to print who's clicked. This dot id. This dot id is nothing but which button is clicked. Like you are trying to get the button 1, you are adding click. For add event listener, this is the syntax. You are trying to get the id of an element, dot add event listener, attaching an event called click to your function, which is your function name, and then false. So if you see the output, you can get it. It's trying to modify it, okay, from our example. So DOM2 defines a process for determining which handlers to execute for a particular event. So when a particular event is triggered, so it will determine like for which it has to execute. Again, it has internally three types, three phases actually. The event object representing the event is created at a particular node called the target node. So nodes we have seen, right, HTML elements. So the event object representing the particular event is created at a particular node, that we call it as a target node. And event propagation, we have three traversal phases here. In the capturing phase, each node from the document is route from the document route to the target node in order. For example, you have your element called some p tag, okay, that is your node. So from there, if you are trying to, you have something like capturing bubbling in your HTML, where if you have nested elements, like you have a parent, you have a child, inside there is another child. The triggering of events happens from either parent to the child. Like if you have multiple alerts within the nested elements, so which alert will be triggered first? For example, your child element alert will be triggered first, or your parent element alert will be triggered first. So these kind of traversal phases we can observe here. So in the capturing phase, each node from the document root to the target node in order is examined, from the parent to the target. Like what if your target is your child node, so how the traversal occurs in this thing. If the node is not the target node and there is a handler for that event at the node, and the handler is enabled for capture for the node, that handler is executed. So this I can show you with the help of an example. Like you can have a nested elements. So which alert will be thrown first if you have alerts inside it. Okay. Examples of the event bubbling and capturing that you can go through. See here, if we take bubbling, you some parent div called as a topmost div D1 and then D2 and then D3. Okay, three nested divs. The main principle of the bubbling states like after an event triggers on the deepest possible element, if then the trigger on the parent in the nested order. So if you have the target as 3, it will ensure like this is triggered first and then 2 and then first. Okay, like this in this order. The order is called a bubbling order 3, 2, 1 if 3 is your target node, okay, on which the event handler is present. Like topmost element and then 2 and then the third element. 1, 2, 3 from top to bottom it captures. Bubbles up means 3 to 1 it will happen. Okay. So we have seen the add event listener, right? For that we have a data type handler. Okay. This is the type load or on load or click or focus events. Okay. Handler is your function and phase. Whether true. True means the handler is set on capturing phase. False means the handler is set on bubbling phase. How it has action has to be started from parent to child or child to parent. Okay. So please go through this link. This will have a good information about this. Navigator object and some simple concepts. Okay, these are just how do you use your how do you try to get the browser what you are using actually, like to get the version of your browser and all. There are 5 slides that we can discuss tomorrow. So with this event bubbling event caption, please go through the link and ensure like you understand the concept. So we'll discuss about this navigator objects. So by this tomorrow we will be done with mostly this JavaScript and the HTML documents part. Okay, just let me know if you have any doubts.